The Karkheh stones are at least 3 confirmed monoliths standing in the wilderness in western Iran. They were most recently discovered in March of 2018 AD. Written and oral records of missing persons in the region date much earlier than this discovery. Contemporary analysis suggests these missing persons likely encountered the Karkheh stones and were unable to report back their existence. Archaeologists rediscovered the stones while examining the ruins of Susa, an ancient city whose excavation site is found within the small city of Shush, Iran, located approximately 50 miles east of the Iran-Iraq border and slightly under 200 miles north of the Persian Gulf. Dr. Mata Esfahani, an associate of former excavation lead Jean Peroux, suggested that additional exploration of the eastern portion of the site would reveal hitherto unsuspected structures from the ancient city. Her theories proved correct, and 6 newly discovered structures began to emerge from the ground, unearthed by the diggers. They contained numerous artifacts, panels, and reliefs with imagery and text not found in the rest of the site, or the excavation's many exported artifacts. One particular relief showed an image of 4 large tower-like stones set in a landscape of dunes adjacent to a body of water. A tablet with cuneiform script, the written language of Sumer, relating to the relief was found in the same structure. The tablet was a proclamation by the Akkadian conqueror Sargon the Great, founder of the Akkadian Empire. It decreed that the stones were accursed and to be avoided by all citizens. The monoliths were believed to act as waypoints for gods and demigods on the path to the underworld, Ereshkigal, and that any humans who tried to travel there by following these monoliths would perish. They would succeed in leaving this world behind, but fail to reach Ereshkigal, dying of thirst and heat in a never-ending desert between the worlds. Only Nergal, lord of the underworld, was named as a being who might travel to and fro with impunity. A description of the stones followed. Repeated was the mandate to avoid the stones. If anyone managed to come across one of the Karkheh stones, they were to turn away from the receding night and approach the morning sun, returning to Susa only once the last stone was passed. The final stone was described as bearing the relief image of a winged bull. No directions to the Karkheh stones were included in the tablet, nor evident from the relief. Further excavation yielded no additional information that could be used to locate them. Dr. Esfahani and the majority of other archaeologists believed the contents of the cuneiform tablet and wall relief to be a new myth, albeit with surprising affirmation in the form of the edict from Sargon the Great. A couple junior members of the team thought it would be enjoyable to search for the stones, however. They drove north of Shush, combing the dunes to the west of the Kashkan River. By lucky accident, when they were exploring approximately 6 miles west of the Karkheh Dam, they found a tall monolith in the desert, matching the relief's depiction of one of the stones. It towered over them at a height of 135 feet. Its base was square, 40 feet per side. The stone tapered with elevation, narrowing to a square top of only 20 feet per side. Its surface was smooth to the touch and a dull matte blue. Tall reliefs carved into the monolith on all four sides showed images of a winged bull. The junior archaeologists contacted the rest of the team at Shush, telling them of the location and that they were going to continue exploring for the rest of the stones. They were never heard from again. Dr. Esfahani led a search party out to the location of the stone west of the Karkheh Dam. They, too, were never heard from again. A third venture was made to the stone. Law enforcement went out in search of all missing members. The last communication received from them denoted that they found the first stone and were moving toward a second stone, whose top half was detectable to the west. They also were lost. After 6 months and 6 more lost search parties, the Iranian military cordoned off the site, establishing a permanent guard around the access to the first monolith. Limited attempts at study of the stones have been made by the Iranian government, but the disturbing and irregular nature of the results has made them wary to continue. The following are details of interaction with the Karkheh stones from experiment data collected at the beginning of September by the Iranian Guard surrounding access to the first monolith. The first of the monoliths, the Bull Stone, has only been observed by ground approach from the east, following the southern edge of the Karkheh Reservoir. Ground parties sent to find the Bullstone from the south and west reported no sign of the monolith, with the notable exception of proceeding east toward the dam, then turning back to the west. The monolith was then visible. Satellite images of the region do not show the monolith, only empty dunes and the reservoir to the north. Overhead passes by aircraft from the south, west, and north revealed nothing. However, aircraft approaching from the east confirmed visibility of the Bullstone. The second monolith, first reported by the junior members of the archaeology team back in March, has only been sighted by ground observers from the base of the Bullstone. Aircraft passes overhead that were able to detect the Bullstone reported no visibility of the second stone. Ground personnel examined the stone from a distance using long-range cameras. Unlike the Bullstone, the reliefs on the side of the second stone showed a coiled snake surrounded by reeds. Consequentially, the second monolith was dubbed the Viper Stone. Laser rangefinders revealed the displacement between the two Karkheh stones to be 1.2 miles. Only the top half of the Viper Stone can be seen from the base of the Bullstone, though the dunes in between form a small and fairly straight ravine. 3 Iranian Guard soldiers rode in a jeep from the Bullstone to the Viper Stone. They remained in radio contact with command at Bull the entire time. Observers remaining behind maintained a constant visual on the jeep until it passed over the ridge concealing the bottom portion of Viper. The soldiers took photographs of the base of the Viper Stone, confirming more Viper reliefs on the other sides, but otherwise describing it as identical to Bull, 40 feet by 40 feet at the base, 20 by 20 at the top, and 135 tall. They also relayed that the top half of a third monolith was visible to the west of Viper. Photography relayed to command confirmed its presence, and the long-range camera sent with the 3 soldiers found a half-horse and half-eagle etched into the structure's sides, earning the third monolith the moniker of the horse stone. It appeared otherwise identical to the first two Karkheh stones, at least from distant observation from Viper. Command ordered the soldiers to return to Bull. Although they responded to the order, observers saw no jeep emerging back over the ridge. Command asked why the soldiers were not complying. They responded that they were driving back the way they came, but they saw no bullstone. Radio contact became distorted with noise at this point, though voices were still discernible to both parties. Command ordered the soldiers to fire up a flare. The men in the jeep reported doing so, and the sound of the flare was audible across the dunes. However, no one at the Bullstone compound saw any flare to the west. Communications became still more garbled until no words or voices were detectable or discernible in the static. The jeep and its occupants were lost. A virtually identical effort was performed only days later, with the addition of several miles of steel cable brought to the Bullstone base and attached to the rear of the second jeep. Once again, the jeep was driven to the Viper Stone. Once again, radio contact was maintained. The soldiers in the jeep, only two this time, confirmed the previous reports. The reliefs in the Viper Stone were in fact Vipers, and the top half of a third monolith, the Horse Stone, was visible to the west. Command ordered the jeep to return. Observers at the Bullstone then paid close attention to the cable. The soldiers in the jeep acknowledged the order and began to drive back. Instead of turning the jeep around, they opted to reverse over the ridge. Bull observers witnessed no movement or disturbance of the cable. Despite this, the two soldiers in the jeep reported successfully backing over the ridge. When they cleared the top, no bullstone was visible to their rear. The cable attached to the back of the vehicle stretched far into the desert, seemingly without end. Command ordered the soldiers to return to Viper and await further instructions. Through the radio came the soldiers' reply. They could no longer find the Viper Stone. At this point, static once again grew to a volume that drowned out all communication. The second jeep and its occupants were lost. After two more lost experiments, both using remotely operated equipment instead of manned vehicles, Command decided the Karkheh stones were a threat to the nation and needed to be destroyed. Demolition charges were placed at the base of Bull. All personnel cleared the immediate area and took shelter from the blast. After the detonation, however, the Bullstone remained erect. Soot covered the lower portions of it from the blast, but no evidence of structural damage to the monolith was found. Anti-tank weapons were directed at the distant Viper Stone and fired. Hits were confirmed on the upper half of Viper, but as with Bull, no evidence of any damage was detected. The encampment at Bull was completely evacuated in preparation for an airstrike. Two Su-25KM fighters dropped a total of 4 unguided Mark 82 bombs onto the Bullstone. As previously described, aircraft have been unable to detect the presence of either Viper or Horse, and so no attempt was made to target them. After the blasts, spotters approached the site of the Bullstone, again to verify the destruction. As before, it remained untouched by the explosives. The Iranian government has adopted a containment policy for the Karkheh stones. A permanent guard station is being maintained around the first monolith, and regular patrols around the Karkheh reservoir watch for any who might inadvertently stumble into the area between the Bull and Viper Karkheh stones. Officially, all personnel who approached the Viper stone remain listed as missing. The blasts from the Mark 82s damaged the steel cable connected to the second jeep, but it still lies in the sand between the high dunes, unable to be retrieved. Whatever is holding the other end isn't moving.